All right, welcome back. We're on like week 10 or 11 or 12 or maybe even 15 of the offseason, and it's dragging on quite a long time. But we actually had a decent amount of news this week. A lot of it pertaining to orgs, a lot of it pertaining to APAC, and a decent amount of teams are actually starting to really solidify. So we've got this section here with the just new teams. It's kind of sad that I don't have to put an org here, but that's actually a little bit of how it goes every single offseason before these teams have orgs lined up. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Number one, the complexity situation for 2025 is quite interesting. Now, the players are going to be on a reduced salary. They're going to be getting all of the prize money that they earned. So it sounds like contract details are changing up. And a large part of this is because of the financial state of Rocket League in and of itself. Things have gotten difficult and Complexity wants to shop around the roster, just based on their own financial projections. They are anticipating that they will need a new home by June of 2025 unless something drastic changes. I appreciate their transparency. It's very sad that it's come to this. I know that based on everything I've seen from Complexity, they're going to do their best to get their players to a good spot. The other thing I'll add is that they will still be in the team house. I don't know how much I've touched on Complexity. I know I talked about them once during this offseason, but they will be sticking with the same squad of Reysbull, CRR, and Diaz, and they will be playing from North America this time. So now that visas are all figured out, the reason they didn't play in North America last year was because they couldn't figure out Dorito's visa in time. But now it's just org stability in the RLCS that's become a problem. So hopefully they're able to find, honestly, I hope they're able to find the funding to support their team the entire season, because yeah, Complexity has been a great brand for Rocket League, and whether or not they're making lands, I hope to still see them competing in North America, even with this squad. So, next team, Deleted XD. They're expected to sign Wahvey. This would see him join Andy and Gyro on the playing field. I believe rumor has it that they'll be coached by Roll Dizz. So, that'll make the roster be Andy, Gyro, Wahvey. This is two veterans teaming with a youngster. I'm not sure. I think in skill, it is a slight upgrade over his TSM squad with Creams and Hockey. I am also pretty biased towards Andy. I respect Andy's game probably a lot more than anyone else in the scene. But I think this roster could be decent. Another thing that was talked about with Andy and Gyro when they were announced as a duo is that this is a duo that rarely misses main events. So I think they'll have the stability of being able to make every single main event and the pop-off potential if Wahvey really starts to deliver and Andy and Gyro can facilitate him well. The last thing about Deleted XD is that they announced that they will be doing a reality show centered around their Rocket League team. It'll be produced by a content creator in the scene who's worked with Dignitas in the past. He's worked with apparently Jack in the past. If you've heard of It Be Caleb, he is going to be in charge of this project. So I'm curious to see how this turns out, and I'm actually kind of excited that it is Wahvey because I feel like building him up as a personality in the scene could be great for the RLCS. I don't have any more lines on this one, but the Pioneers are expected to sign JKnaps, Aris, and Aqua. These guys announced they were a team a little while back. Pioneers are looking to sign a North American roster. This looks like the pairing that we're going to end up seeing. They're coached by Trey. He was a former XSET Cloud9, or not Cloud9. He was a former XSET M80 coach back in the day. So Pioneers are expected to sign them, play in North America. Now my new team section. I have 5 teams on here. It's a little bit cluttered. I do apologize for that, but I definitely got crammed on space as we got further down. The first one is Crispydon, Simas, and Eekso. This is a team full of Europeans. They will be playing in North America. There's a decent amount of hype around Crispydon and Simas. They're both young guns. They did pretty well. I can't remember if Simas was on that team. I know Crispydon was on the 100% team that went 15-3 during the Shift Summer League. Simas had a lot of hype. He went on the Shift cast and had a solid run with top Cougars by the end of it. He had a couple standout performances. He has a really insane shot in an F1 car from last season. And then Eekso, formerly from Jobless and Oxygen. They'll be teaming in North America primarily because Crispydon and Simas are here for CRL, as well as just getting an education from college. So I'm curious to see how that team does, but I don't necessarily expect they'll be competing for lands. I think they'll be a main event team for sure, and curious to see if these two players really develop these two players being Crispydon and Simas develop into insane talents. The other one is exciting in a different way. Still an import situation. Dorito and Teqhoz, both Spanish players. They'll be playing in Europe, and joining them will be AJG from Argentina. So this is the first ever player to technically be an import into Europe. A lot of people will point to Itachi, Drali, and Nas and be like, hey, these guys were technically from MENA. They're all Moroccan, which is considered North Africa. Honestly, the way I view it is if you started your career in a certain place, then you're not necessarily like getting imported there. For instance, I'll talk about a player, or I won't talk about a player later, but there are players that are from America that moved to APAC when they were younger and have played in APAC their entire career. I don't consider that a North American import. But same with Maxiu, actually, in APAC. He's a great example. He's Irish, moved there when he was young. He's always been an APAC player. Itachi, Drali, they were always European players. This is the first time we've seen a player who's played in another region, then moved to Europe. So I'm curious for this team. I hope they do well, because I think it'd be funny to see, with how much Europe has kind of taken over the Rocket League world, it'd be funny to see a team with a player not from Europe go to LAN representing Europe. So in my biased opinion, I'm excited to see this squad. Acronic, Matane, and Eugen are teaming in Europe. Acronic, formerly of Team Liquid, is probably where people will know him best. Matane has floated around some bubble teams in the past. He's always a solid option. I believe he was on Endpoint towards the end of last season. And Eugen is an up-and-coming French player, so look out. I'm excited to see what these guys can do, and I think that Eugen is going to be the young pop-off star. If this team does start to win, it's going to be because Eugen develops into another French prodigy. Sorry, I've spoken a lot today. Tho, Ocelon, and Drew teaming in APAC. So this is our first APAC team to hit the board. They're actually the first out of 3, which is kind of insane how much movement APAC is doing. Tho played in APAC last year. Ocelon and Drew, I feel like I remember Drew going to APAC at some point, but I could just be completely tripping. Ocelon was a European bubble player. Drew was a North American bubble player. So they will all be teaming in APAC. Curious to see how they do. I don't think they're the runaway favorites, but I think they will provide that region with a bit more competition at the top. And then this isn't necessarily like an RLCS team. That's a little disrespectful, but this isn't a team that's like trying to compete at the top. This is a team that is running it for the content. It's all retired players. Squishy, Garrett G, and AJ have all announced that they will be teaming up for the next season. They're going to be doing content runs. They're all going to be streaming their perspectives. I think this is like a situation where, similar to the Alpha Cup, Turbo, and Rizzo rosters, where it's like, okay, all of these players are retired. We're not trying to do scrims. We're not trying to compete and day in and day out grind to be on the top. We're going to go in and have fun with it. That's what I think this squad is. That being said, don't be surprised if they make main events in North America. It wouldn't shock anyone at this point. It's 3 still very solid players, but they will not be grinding to be competing at the top. Just wait until they make land, though. Now we're diving into APAC a little bit more. A new organization, I believe, for APAC, the Kinotrope. Kinotrope Gaming has entered the APAC scene. They've signed probably the roster I'm most excited for, looking back on it. They've signed Realize, Furlash, and Lunatic. So Realize is, at this point, the GOAT of APAC. He was on the original Tokyo Verde roster, one of the first players to make LAN and Worlds for APAC. Furlash has been around APAC for a while. He's made several finals. And Lunatic, also been around APAC for a decent amount. He was the player who came into Detonator after they made LAN. So he played for Detonator for a while. That's probably where you recognize the name Lunatic from, but he didn't play for them on LAN. So I hope this squad can do really well, especially because it is a full APAC team supported by an APAC org. Would love to see them representing their region on the main stage. And the last APAC roster to talk about, I mentioned last week that Luminosity was interested in signing a roster for APAC. They've gone and done it. They do have 2 players imported. One of them was playing their last season with ZPS. The other one who is coming over from North America is Sosa. ZPS and Sosa have teamed together on multiple occasions, so it's not surprising to see them reunite. They will be teaming with local talent Sphinx. Sphinx is the prodigy from APAC. He played for Elevate last year, was definitely a standout at the Copenhagen Major, at least from that APAC team. A lot of people are excited for what his future could be for the region. And so I'm curious to see how he develops alongside two veteran North America players who were kind of in that, 9th through 12th range for a decent amount of time. But curious to see if they make land and how much Sphinx can grow teaming alongside these two. Last but certainly not least, the real kicker for this week is that the Rise World Tour is extending to the Middle East. He is expected to join Naupo on Twisted Minds. Now, I believe the original rumor based on Achilleas' stream was that Naupo and O'Khaled were rumored to be teaming on Twisted Minds. I don't really know what O'Khaled's doing. Honestly, I think a lot of people thought he was going to retire. It's still very possible. I think the hint towards that is that Senzo tweeted out in response to this squishy Garrett G AJ team. Like, Senzo tweeted out at Ahmad and O'Khaled and be like, hey, we want to do the same thing. So, and that team would definitely still be making semifinals and maybe not semifinals, but at least quarterfinals in MENA. But that's the only hints that I have to O'Khaled being retired. But in terms of Twisted Minds, present day, it is Naupo. He probably has full control over what they want to do. And they're getting Rise, which is kind of wild. So they will be playing for MENA, and right now it is expected that they're going to be having a MENA third. I know someone in the Shift Discord asked if Gyro was an option. Doesn't sound like he is, at least at the moment. Again, it's the offseason. Anything can change. But right now it doesn't sound like Gyro is an option. They're probably going to go with a MENA third. So, but yeah, very curious to see how Rise does in the Middle East. I think this Twisted Mind squad, really no matter who they got, was going to be in place or competing for second in the Middle East, only behind Falcons. So them adding Rise is definitely a step up. Like, I know MENA's got a lot of talent, but if you have someone as veteran as Rise, like, you can take a shot on a young player with a lot of potential, still pretty comfortably make land, in my opinion. So curious to see who they round out with. I know there's a lot of hype around Mesho. He was the player who was on the bench for Rule 1 before a lot of the drama with Naupo happened after Regional 4. Then O'Khaled stopped playing. Mesho came in. Yada, yada, yada. So, yeah, that's the board for this week. Hopefully you all enjoyed. I mentioned on Twitter that I would be breaking down the announcement for the new season. I hope to get that out this week. But I am recovering from a work trip to LA. So had to kind of throw this together last minute, and my voice is very sore from screaming out my lungs at a football game all day. So that being said, hope you all enjoyed. Catch you guys next time.